We are back. I thought I was gonna do this as kind of an experiment on my own, but then I thought I might as well film it and just see where it goes. I've never tried anything like it before, so I come across this image. I searched for stained glass templates on Google, and this was one of the images, and I thought this would be a kind of easy way to start. So my idea was to use my wire wrapping copper. This is square. I can't remember the gauge, but I will put it into the description with the links. So I kind of wanted to make this into, whether it be a pendant or something else that can be kind of stuck to an ornament, I don't know yet. I'm kind of going with the flow, you know me. I like to jump in and kind of just go with the flow. So I'm just what I've done is I've just kind of manipulated the copper around the image, as you can see, in different areas. It's going to be a little bit fiddly, I think, when it comes to sticking them together. I don't know whether I'm going to solder them and make it look real, or whether I'm going to try and seal it with UV, but it's kind of just positioning and cutting down the copper. So for example, with the outer bezel, I just kind of held it in place and just bent the copper around the paper, around the print, until I got the shape that I wanted. I mean, I know this isn't going to be perfect, so but it is a case of just persevering and trying different things to kind of see how they work. So you can see I've done a bit already, so I didn't want to take up lots of time with the video, but it's just a case of snipping bits down and making sure they fit inside. Again, it's not going to be perfect, but hopefully we'll get something at the end of it. I might have to skip certain bits out just to kind of cut the video down a bit so it's not too dragged out, but I think things are really only going to be held together once I start to bond the pieces together, etc. You can see where I'm going. So I decided to go with flat copper because I'm hoping I can get some bezel tape underneath it and make a good seal. But I think I am going to have to use UV resin and some liquid dyes for colouring this. But you can just see, I don't know whether it's all going to fit inside the bezel or not, but it is kind of snipping bit by bit and getting everything right until it's right inside. So I'm going to carry on. Just all I need to do now is just snip these bits here. So that would be 2 small parts. I might be able to get away with 1 and just bend it at the tips for this. I might actually be able to do that with that section there as well. Let's just see. I was going to pause it and carry on off camera, but I might as well kind of show how fiddly it is. Just bend that. Hopefully I can get that to a point. So it might be easier, if you're going to try this, to do a bigger image but with less detail. Have a search on Google and just see what's out there, really. So you can see it's fairly straightforward. In the process. And again, I know it's not going to be perfect, but as an experiment, I have to try. Right, I'm going to carry on just getting all my pieces together and then we'll move on to the next step. So I attempted to solder it and it really didn't work. I'm not very good at soldering. So you can see I've got an old mould over the top of my design, and I'm just going to hope that the UV option works just to hold things in place whilst I build the frame. So again, it is going to be a little bit wonky, but it is just an idea. So I'm just going to hold that in place, and for this I'm going to use my handy little UV flashlight. I just want that to seal. Doesn't matter if I'm making too much of a mess, that can come off afterwards. So I'm not going to show the whole process, but I'll just show what I'm doing just to hold the framework in place. Once we put the resin in, that will kind of bond everything together anyway. I just hope that this works by holding that frame together, which it has. Areas might come apart as we go. I'm hoping not. So any kind of mess, we can just get rid of that. It is merely to hold things together whilst we build it. So I can then go in. I've got a bit of solder on this bit. It did work on this one, but the bigger one, it just kept coming apart. So just spacing it out. And again, this is an experiment. I know the gaps are a bit wonky going around. So I'm now just going to find one of my small pieces to fit into this gap. Can be a bit fiddly. There we go. And the same with that. Just a tiny dab. Actually, what I can do is just put some up there and use my little tool and kind of use it as a solder. Like so. And if it's off a little bit, I can just move it. Like so. This is much easier than soldering, guys. That was very fiddly, and at least with this, anyone can do it. You don't have to have a soldering iron, which is handy. So there you can see a slightly wonky frame, but it's handmade. It's not going to be perfect. Could try and move this out a little bit, but I don't want to start playing around. So you can spend a little bit more time with this. So now it is a case of just fitting the rest inside the framework. So that is my first leaf section. Again, just a small amount. We can always go over all of this copper afterwards, just so that it's all even. Or you can use a little rotary machine and buff it down so it's all flush. But I'd recommend doing that after we've done the resin. Okay, I'm going to simplify it. I'm going to leave out those two small parts there. It's taken me about 20 minutes to get this to where it is. I've had to snip some bits down where things have moved. But I'm quite happy with it for a first attempt. Things seem to have held together, but I don't want to take it out of the mould just yet. I'm going to start mixing my UV colours and just hope that it doesn't seep under. I'm going to do it bit by bit just to ensure that it doesn't kind of leak everywhere. So let's get my mixing cups ready. So I'm going to be using the liquid epoxy pigments, the dyes, liquid dyes. These are non-opaque. So really hoping this doesn't seep, but if I do it in small tiny amounts, we should be okay. I'm hoping. As always, massive shout out to my channel members. Thank you very much, and to anyone who's bought me a coffee or a super thanks. Help support the channel. Okay, so we're just going to mix that green with our UV, and this will be for the leaves. Probably mixed up a bit too much. Really hoping this works. So, just going to apply that in. And before it has a chance to seep, just going to very safely just click blast any bubbles out and then cure that really quickly. Come on. just so it doesn't seep underneath the framework. So there we have our first 2 leaves. It's actually coming together quite nicely. I just did a little bit at a time. What's that? It's just something. Yeah, just a small amount at a time. I'm missing a little bit of wire in there, which I'm going to add now. That's better. So yeah, as I was saying, I'm just using my little tool and just touching the wiring together, and then quickly cure that, and then I can go in with another thin amount. It's just to prevent, if you add too much, it's gonna move underneath that wire. So at least doing it this way, it's kind of clinging to the sides of the wire before it gets a chance to seep below. And that torch is really handy. The lamp, I think, would just be too big and keep getting in the way. And just a small amount, doesn't matter if I go over the top of the wire, it is just an experiment at the end of the day. Right, I'm going to crack on. So I'm now going to go with a blue for around the leaves and the flower itself. So I'm just using the sapphire blue for this one. And then I've just added 1 drop of white just to soften the blue a little bit, because it was quite strong. So with this, I can probably go in a bit more sparingly in the top. And then very quickly spread that around with my tool just so it's touching the frame. And then again, I can apply more afterwards if I need to. It's just to seal that in. Bubbles. So what I have been doing is, once I've kind of used the mini torch, is just giving it a minute under the big lamp just to set that off, because the torch is quite dull compared to this. So there you can see so far. Really impressed with that so far. And now we just need to colour the leaves and then the framework itself. But I am going to go over the top of the blue. Now I know it's not going to leak, just to make it a bit stronger. And it's slightly domed now, just to give it a better finish. More like an get my words mixed, tongue-tied. More like an enamel. Enamel, Dan. It's not hard to say. Enamel. It's got an yeah. You get my drift. Okay, for the flower I've gone with a rose red. It's a really nice colour. I want it to stand out. Just quickly with the heat. I'm going to have to use the big one because my battery is running low. Right, I'm really impressed, apart from the wonky bezel, but if I start playing around with that now, I'm probably going to break it, or I'm going to pop these, and everything could go wrong. So I'm really impressed with it so far, so I'm just going to carry on. So for the bezel area, I think what I'm going to do is use some of the rose red up here and down here, and then maybe the green again for these gaps here. Just, I don't want it too overpowering with lots of different colours. Okay, I am really super impressed with this. It has an Art Deco kind of antique-y vibe to it. What I'm going to do, I did tell one of my members that I would do this a different way, but I haven't got anything at the moment. I'm just going to cure that on the underneath, just to make sure that everything's set, just for a minute. Yeah, so my member suggested getting a piece of Perspex and then you can kind of lay your work on top. I haven't got anything at hand at the moment, so I'm just going to hold it away, because she did say that if you keep it down like that, it could get too hot. Okay, again, I'm super impressed with this. Now you're probably thinking, oh, but what could we use it for? I mean, that's up to you. You could play around with this. You could also get them to fit inside a bezel like this. You could do all sorts, but I had an idea. I have these little tea light lanterns. It's a bit dirty, ignore that, but I wouldn't use a real candle in there. Maybe chuck some fairy lights, or you can get the battery powered ones and you could just dress that on there. Maybe you could do lots of things with it if you use your imagination. I mean, you could actually make one of these in the same way that we've done that. You could take these glass panels out, for instance, and size them up and replace them with something like this. But I am super impressed. As always, give the video a thumbs up, drop me a comment. I'm dropping it already. And if you haven't subbed, hit that sub button for me. There you go, something different. See you for the next one. Bye for now.